Hello everybody and welcome back to Kerbal Space Program, where we've drifted off a little bit, but we need to send Bill right on over to here because we've got a little bit of strutting to do before we are done here. Now, I want to think a bit about how we want to strut this. The station is broadly pretty solid right now as far as the strutting goes. It doesn't seem to have any particularly loose and wiggly parts. Let's just make our way right up over here. There we go. And we'll just grab right on. Fantastic. So from here, of course, we can grab struts like right out of this cargo storage unit. And we can just strut this on from here over to about here. That did not actually attach, so we'll do it from this side over to here. There we go. So the 4 struts is definitely overkill, I think. And we'll just turn snap on there. There we go. 4 struts, I think, is definitely overkill, but it certainly gets the job done. So we get this strutted in. That is a weird connection to make. Okay. I want it to be down over here. Sure, that'll do. And then we'll get this one moved as well. So obviously, anytime that we want to move the arm, we'll have to unstrut this and then move it around with this system here. And we'll want this to be strutted together like it is here. Now we'll just unstrut that. Phenomenal. And there we go. So that is, of course, this completely strutted into place now. And the next question that I want to ask here is, do we want to strut from here to here? And I think that's not a terrible idea. That gets us bypassing several joints there. So we can just strut it from here directly over to here, right? And what that ends up meaning is that this position is now strutted fundamentally to this position. That'll just make it a lot less likely to wiggle around. Now, this is going to need some reworking eventually. We'll have to get that moved. But for right now, that is not going to be the goal. I want to take a quick look at what actually the next goal is, though. So looking at the assembly, I guess you could say the assembly sequence, as Wikipedia calls it here, we can definitely see that after we put in the mobile base system, the next thing is the S1 truss. Now, we currently have on there the P6 truss and solar arrays. The S1 truss is, I think, going to be very, very similar to the S0 truss. Yes, except it's going to be lacking the superstructure here. And of course, that does also mean that it's going to be lacking the Canadarm mount point. So that's not going to go on there, but otherwise it'll be broadly the same. Now, looking at the S1 truss here, actually, let's go back here and take a look at the S1 truss in this photo. Okay, so you can see here, this is the lack of superstructure here. This is where the Canadarm mount point would go. But it's basically the same thing, just docked into the side over here. Definitely. There are, however, what appears to be some radiators. And if we look at this here, yes. So these are 3 extendable radiators in the back, and they're big ones too. Okay. Good to know. That should not be particularly difficult to pull off. For the time being, we of course need to bring these guys back home. So, RCS on, please. Thank you, Bill. And yep, that's just going to be what we're going to be doing here, is we just attach that truss. I'm not sure which side it goes on. We'll have to figure that out. But for now, this will be pretty easy, I think. So over we go back to the shuttle, and the shuttle is, of course, going to be heading home here. We may have slightly impacted the shuttle, but I'm sure it's fine. Okay. So we're just going to... having a little bit of perspective issue here. There we go. That should do the trick. There we go. Grab on, and let's board. Cool. So now, of course, we can unextend our telescoping hydraulic cylinder, and we can just stow that all away. We can stow our cargo bay and head on over to orbital retrograde. Cool. There's this awkward strut over here. Boy, is that an awkward strut. I'm going to have Bill EVA here. We're going to remove this strut, and we're just going to stow that in the cockpit. There we go. Get rid of that. Phenomenal. So we're going to go into orbital mode here, and let's throttle on up, bringing our periapsis height, as usual, down to approximately 80. I thought I saw another strut, but it was actually Minmus here. Hi, Minmus. Okay, so off we go, bringing our periapsis right on down. We're basically at the apoapsis right now, so this is actually, well, no, that would make sense, because we've been changing our periapsis. Our apoapsis will shift until we're basically at the apoapsis. I was going to say that's convenient, but it's not really, because it almost certainly changed on us. Very, very likely, anyway. We're at the apoapsis now, though, and we're starting to go down, so... Actually, we weren't in a circular orbit, so... we might have just happened to be almost at that apoapsis. That would be convenient, for sure. So, of course, we've brought this down to about 70 kilometers, and then we'll just circularize it right down over here. And this is not exactly at the periapsis, but there we go. Bringing that right on down to approximately here will do. Looks good. We'll just align to that node. There we go, and let's warp. We'll see if we're bringing this down over land or water. It does seem to be water quite frequently. We've just been bringing it down completely randomly. Just whenever we happen to be ready to bring it down is when it comes down. And it's been almost entirely water. It's been a while since we've had a land landing, actually. Hopefully that changes. We can do both, and variety is the spice of life, right? So we need to start up our burn now. This will be about a 30-second burn to lower our orbit down to 70-ish kilometers. It doesn't need to be exactly 70, of course. A little higher is fine. Cool. So we've got about another 15 seconds left in this burn. Eventually, we're going to need to remember to vent our fuel. I always, like, that's a step that I nearly always forget. I'm just going to pin that open. We don't want to do that now, obviously. We still need a little bit of fuel. Not much, but a little bit. This will be fine. Okay, so we're going to look to come down on the day side, and once again, we're coming down right in this pocket here. I suppose we could do, like, a full orbit. We could do a full orbit here. And just let this orbit all around. We might want to do one more if we really want that land landing. Land landings are spicier. There's less margin for error. Yep. One more orbit if we really want a land landing. Cool. So we just bring this right on around here. That's about half of the orbit there. And now is when we would look to bring down our apoapsis. So sometime around here, we would bring this down to a periapsis of about 40 kilometers, as we've previously done. That definitely seems to be a doable way to do things, although judging by the amount of diving, we could probably bring that down. Doesn't really matter. We just need 35.8 meters per second here. Excellent. Okay, so let's warp. Okay, we've got about 50 seconds to go here. 40, 30, 20, 10, and 3, 2, 1, 0, mark. And we're just watching this periapsis height number. That'll do. We'll go to horizontal velocity up. And how are we looking now? That is almost certainly going to be a land landing. I like it. So that's great. We will align to the horizon like so. There we go. And let's warp. We are, of course, going to need to head down a bit into the atmosphere. There we go. We are now in Atmo. Ah, yes. I almost forgot the drain valve until I noticed this here. We should drain out our fuel. And so we shall. Goodbye, fuel. We do not need your mass messing up our aerodynamics. Excellent. Let's physics warp our way down a bit. We, of course, need to be bleeding off quite a lot of energy here. And that is exactly what we will do. The atmosphere slows this design down so much. And that's absolutely great. So downward we go, but we've got a ways to go. Yeah, I don't think we're going to be passing over this whole continent here. We're going to be landing somewhere up here-ish, which is awkwardly near mountains. We'll try to scope out a flat place to land, of course. So that'll be fine. We're still like 60 kilometers up for now, and we're still technically in orbital mode. We haven't shifted the camera automatically over to flight mode yet. It will soon enough. Periapsis height is still a little too high. How are we doing on our horizontal speed? That is currently increasing. Okay, that's expected as we're falling towards our periapsis. We are, in fact, gaining speed, which is what we expect to have happen here, but our overall energy levels are diminishing. There we go, changing over into flight mode. Cool. I'm just tweaking our attitude a little bit here. We're still a little bit off, but it's complicated to do while in physics warp. Okay, it's not perfect, but it'll do. We're going way too fast to attempt to maneuver, of course. That's that weird light that we've been noticing. I think that that's from our docking port, but I don't know that for a fact. I don't know. It's kind of strange, but it's fine. We are, of course, beginning to slow down tremendously at this point, which is exactly expected. We would not want to land on these mountains, that's for sure. That would definitely be non-preferential. But we're still going over 2 kilometers per second, so we've got quite a lot of distance to cover yet. I say as I notice the shoreline right up over here. We're actually overshooting this terrain. Okay. Well, clearly I need practice aiming this thing. There's no doubt about that. We could attempt to head off this direction. We're going too fast to maneuver right now, but we're slowing down tremendously. So we could attempt a roll out over this way. And then try to turn and go this direction. We could try it. I don't think that it's going to go great, but we certainly could try it. Yeah, it's not going great. Okay. Definitely noted. Yep. That's about what I expect. Actually, this is an interesting direction to be going. Pulls us back around. I want to be nosing up over this direction, right? So I want to be taking us out over here. I'm attempting to nose up right now and go somewhere around here, right? We need to gain additional speed right now. I don't think we make it back, to be honest. We're going to have to dive down and then bring it right back up. So I'm just trying to even us out a little bit. Aerodynamics really don't want to be doing this, and I can't say I blame them. I kind of don't want to be doing it either, but we need to be diving down and going this way. I don't know that we make it back to the coast here. I didn't think we'd overshoot that entire continent, but clearly what that means is we should lower our margin a little bit. Instead of 40 kilometers, going for something more like 30 in that situation. We can dive down and head back towards the shore. I don't think that we're going to make it to the shore. So we're currently attempting to trade altitude for distance by gaining speed here, but we're actually going down in speed, so yeah, we're not going to make it. This is going to be a water landing, unfortunately. I'd hoped to do a land landing. We'll continue to try to target a land landing. Clearly, I need to work on figuring out exactly when these things are going to happen, right? But let's just start pulling up a little bit here. Okay. Horizontal velocity up, please. Thank you. And we're just going to bring this in right over this way. Cool. Watching that horizontal speed drop does indicate that we're probably still a little bit too high. I think we need to go back to Kilrot and dive down a little bit further here. we're definitely not making it back to the shore. I can tell you that. Okay, let's pull this back up. There we go. Shoots out. And I want to park us slightly like this, slightly up. And we're just going to slow way, way down. We're still a little higher up than I want to be, actually, but this should be reasonably fine. Going into surface mode, yeah, this is 30 meters per second. This is not too bad. We're mostly getting vertical speed now. We're going to nose down. But there we go. Kind of a hard splashdown, but a splashdown nevertheless. Okay, we'll call it good. I did intend to do a land landing there, but okay. Lesson learned. Lesson learned. We overshot the entire continent. It's really hard to dial in where that landing zone is going to be with this thing. No doubt about that. That is really complicated to do. It's just a matter of, like, I mean, you could do the math, but it's if we don't want to do the math, which of course I don't, it's just a matter of feeling it out and getting a feel for doing that, right? And that is fairly complicated. There's a lot of things that go into that. And you only get one shot. You can't, like, it's just a full-on glider, right? So you only get one attempt per flight. It's complicated. We, of course, need to get our payment here, so we'll hop in here and grab our payment for that mission. And now let's get that S0 truss going here. Or actually, we're going to modify the S0 truss, but this is going to be the S1 truss. Okay, so let's open up the S0 truss. That's this guy. And then we're going to make some modifications to this. So, first things first, we're going to rotate this guy out 90 degrees. There we go. And we, I think, still need our docking ports on either side. This docking port goes away. This structural panel, right down the middle here, goes away. Like that. Okay. This strut is mildly awkward when we're out like this, but that's reasonably fine. Now, inside of here, I just want to take a quick look at what the truss module ended up looking like here. So, taking a look at the S1 truss from this image, right? We can see that there's like lines going across each of these, dividing these into essentially compartments, but inside of those compartments, it's relatively hollow. So I think that the way that we're going to end up emulating that is that we're going to hop in here and we're just going to put struts across. So I'm going to grab a strut connector and we're going to have this connect from here to here. Do we want a cap on it though? That's an interesting question. But we can just put a strut straight through in each of these areas. And that, I don't know. I don't like that. I don't like that at all. Let's try for a structural panel, like a small structural panel. Is there a good one for that? We can go with, let's see here. These are the 1x1 structural panels, so that's these guys. We could go with like these grip strips. They're a little on the big side. And then, of course, there's these 2x2 panels. And then these grip pads. We could potentially go for a Pocket Edition I-beam. That's an interesting option, actually. So we would put that guy there, and then we would want to rotate it to be about like that. Bringing it down about there, right? Now, it's a little bit on the long side, for sure, and it's currently needing additional rotation. It looks like it's not correctly rotating to the 90-degree angle. So somewhere around there, and then somewhere around there would be much closer. Yeah, that looks about bang on the 90-degree angle. So then we could put it in something like this, a little further back in, and then right about there, hypothetically. That's almost attached onto these. If that's the case, that would be a lot easier to just attach them here. I don't like that choice then. What about this size of I-beam? That's a potential interesting option. We can then rotate it to go this direction, right? And then rotate it around. That's very sensitive from this camera angle. But rotate it around to go like this, and then like this. Approximately. We'd want to dial in those rotations, of course. But something about like that. Then we would move this in to be more along the lines of this, right? Once again, that's very, very close there to just being directly on this modular girder segment. So, to that end, I'm going to remove this I-beam. We're going to put in a new one. That can go here. But we want it to go about like that. Actually, I really like that. So then we can move this to go there. That works really well, I think. Yes. And then we need one of these at every single one of these junctions. So it can go something like that. We'll need, I think, one more at the end here. Okay, I think that last one needs to get moved in a little bit here. It does indeed. So it would need to be moved to be about here then. I like it. That works. And then we could have the structural panel be on the inside here. So what we would end up doing there is I'm just going to take a 1x1 structural panel and rotate it to be simply inside of here. About like this, although I think it's backwards from the direction I want it to be. All of these are giving... Hang on. We want it to be the insulated variant. That's why. Okay, there we go. So I want this to then go exactly... I want it to be attached to the structural panel or the modular girder segment. And maybe turn off snapping. Yeah, about like that. So then this guy would go here, right? And the purpose behind that is to fill in this gap. Okay, and it would go about like that. So then we can just place a bunch of them in here. Like that. And then move them into position using the move tool. So I'm going to snap each one of them into position here. And I'll snap this one as well. Then we can move this guy. That is not what I wanted to do. We can use the move tool to move this down and have it be snapping is probably okay. Yeah, right there. Right there. Right there. And right there. Phenomenal. So now we've got this open thing here, right? Where it's basically the same, but it's got these like compartmentalized features here. Now, on the back, we're going to need some radiators. And these are big radiators. So like large thermal control systems. This is automatically coming with 3 of them. So I think that what we actually need here is the medium thermal control radiators, rotating it like so, I believe. I'm going to double check that here. So let's see here. Looking at the back side of that, where are we? Okay. Wikipedia decided to lose where we were on the page. So we need to go to the S1 truss here. So looking at the S1 truss, that's this page here. There was a photo here, this one. Yeah, we can see that they are very slightly rectangular. They're very, very, very slightly longer than they are tall in this image. Okay, so that's good to know. Very slightly longer than they are tall. So looking at this, These are quite a bit more rectangular. So in that case, we would want them to be going, if I can get the correct rotation here, one of these days. There we go. Here, here, here. So this is the same as the large component, except we're going to have individual control over them, which is indeed what we want for the moment. So this guy can be moved over about like that. Okay, so that would be the S0 truss segment, and that would be pretty much the whole thing. That's the whole thing ready to go. We can pack it up like so. One thing we do need to ask is, well, this is going to be attaching... It's going to be this docking port that we want to attach to it, isn't it? It is, because I'm thinking about the directionality, right? So if we look at it from here, this is the back side of it. It docks in to the S0 truss segment. And these face backwards from there. So that means that the left side, when looking at it from the back, is the docking port that will dock into it. So we're looking at it from the back, left side. Oh, okay. Well, that works. Sure, we don't need to flip it around or anything then. Good to know. That should be absolutely ideal. So we would just line it up and dock it in here. That should be a very easy deployment, all things considered. So that shouldn't be bad at all. Let's just put this thing back into the stowed position. And this is, of course, going to be the S1 truss segment. We'll save that. And it is time to put a cut in here, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. And next episode, the S1 truss segment is going up. You can leave your offerings to the engagement gods in the form of likes, comments, subscribes, and bell ringings. And a very special thank you to all of the channel members for making this video possible, including ALS Gamer, Shadow Wolf, Andy McGar, Upper Cumberland Gamers, Nick Smarty, Dimitri H, Punching the Microphone, Soccerman12 UK, Kentogan, and all the rest. And of course, you. Thank you for watching. If you'd like to support the channel, you can click the join button down below the video. And as always, I will see you all next time.